Welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, the podcast where two guys watch random movies through a magic algorithm. With me today, as always, is the button face to my Aaron Boone, Kyle Mulford, and I'm Noah Saturn.
And I'm Kyle Mulford, but we've already established that. What are we watching today?
Oh, today we got to watch the marvelous, wondrous, incredible film known as Deadtime.
And don't worry, folks, this is absolutely free. You don't even need a pay streaming service for this movie.
Sure, we watched it on the Vudu free version as opposed to the Vudu you use for download codes for other stuff. But anyway.
This movie, Deadtime, is a 2012 movie. Just to give you a little idea, it opened up May 11th through 13th, 2012 was opening weekend. It was 55th place.
55?
55th place on the box office Mojo and opened in 18 theaters. It made a total domestic gross of $156,000.
So they they made money.
Yeah, if the quality of the movie is any indication, yes, they did make money. It looks like the only other thing of note opening that weekend was Dark Shadows, and I'm not even sure how much of note that is.
That weird Johnny Depp one where I already forgot about it?
Yeah, because even that opening weekend, it was beat by Marvel's The Avengers in #1 slot in its second week. So, yeah, 55th place, and this movie opened in 18 theaters.
18 theaters? That's 18 more theaters than I thought it would have opened in.
So, what's your little snowball pitch, if I may?
Imagine like a bad slasher movie, but make it somehow worse and they're a British rock band for some reason.
That sounds fantastic. So let's get into it, if we have to. This movie opens up. I feel like it wants to open up like the movie Seven, where it's kind of like stylized credits with like, this crazy creepy stuff in the opening and like kind of the shaky like pictures.
Yeah,
and this more punk music than like the heavy music, the Nine Inch Nails that they used in Seven, but it had a similar vibe that they were going for.
I could see that. Kind of David Finchery on the credit sequence, except nowhere near as interesting.
No. And then after all that, this movie actually opens with we're introduced to Jimmy, and he is a band manager for this band called Love Meets Murder. And isn't that apropos for the movie?
Oh boy, because I would love to
meet murder.
These people get murdered. Yeah, Jim Murder. He's a nice guy.
So they're like a band that had like one of those skyrocketing bands had a great first album and their second album just sucks and it's flopped.
I listened to them before they were cool, man. Before they sold out, man.
Yeah, I've got their bootleg. Pre-first album.
I've got the 8-track demo, so
So Jimmy, their manager, is he's trying to sell them a little better, and so he goes to this record company, and the production quality in there like just seems like I don't even know how to describe it. It's almost like porn quality with like just the acting and the lighting and everything.
I would say maybe, or it's like they had access to just like a random office and they used it, which is fine, whatever. If you're making it on a shoestring budget, you gotta get your locations where you can.
Because the audio is not that great. I mean, it's clean, but it's not that great, and the lighting is just kind of, I don't even know what they were doing for the lighting in there and all that. But I mean, I guess I can't say much about audio quality because we're just beginning this podcast, and I'm not sure how well I'm getting quite yet.
Yeah.
But we're also not trying to put this into a theater.
We aren't.
Well,
not till the second season.
Second season.
We're
going from YouTube to theater.
Cool.
Because everyone wants to go to the theater to listen to a podcast.
Exactly.
So the record company, the guy says, I'm not going to give you any money, but you can record an album in this old rundown studio.
Or like a new promo video or something.
Yeah, they're gonna shoot like a almost music video type thing, and they go there, and the place is owned by a guy named Mart.
Mart.
And he's got the terrible British teeth. I hate to be stereotyped with that, but like, dude, they were terrible, like yellowed and crooked and.
Yeah, I feel like he's one of those character actors who doesn't actually have that bad teeth, but he just
yeah, exactly.
Fake dentures.
He's method.
I suppose.
And right away, at least they established this right away when they get into the place. Did you notice that they made sure to point out that there was no way to get out of this building except by the entrance they came in. You leave by the alleyway, and there's fences with barbed wire around them and razor wire, and there's no. Why does this
what
building?
What kind of neighborhood is this?
I was wondering, like, why does this building have this? And nobody knows. They're all speculating. Oh, it used to be a insane asylum, so nobody could get out of here.
Then you find out it was actually a post office.
Or something. Yeah, was that even legit too?
Yeah, it was post office because it's called like a post recording studio or something like that.
Oh, okay. Well, and then they also pointed out that there's no phone signal. It's not like they're in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's a terrible neighborhood, but
yeah, I mean, they're definitely still in a city. Maybe if you're in the bowels of the basement of the big building, you wouldn't have phone signal. But if you walk outside in the alleyway, I'm sure you'd be fine.
And who knows? Maybe they were in the basement or something, because the building didn't look that big from the outside. But when they're running around through this building, there are so many rooms.
I assume it's like a Harry Potter sort of thing, where like it looks small on the outside, but it's bigger. Exactly, it's bigger on the inside.
TARDIS, Diagon Alley,
something like that.
So we're starting. They're all getting ready to record, and then already they've got girlfriends in. Jimmy is there, the band manager, with his girlfriend Angie, and one of the girls that comes in for the music video, she knows her from a bad time in her life.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm not sure what she means.
I don't know what I mean either.
I wasn't sure what she meant either, and she never really clarified. They just didn't get along. So the girls start fighting, and then some band member storms out, and then there's the video director, the guy filming the video. His name is Nigel. He's got like the funny hair, like
he's got like sort of that stereotypical directory type fancy pants kind of look. If you've ever seen any like even cartoon or something, he's always wearing that weird hat.
Yeah, only it's weird hair.
Yeah, it's.
Well, he's recording the whole time, so of course he got that on tape. He's like, "Oh, this is great. This is good stuff." And the guy who storms out, he ends up talking to Uncle Al. Where did Uncle Al come from?
Maybe Uncle Al is a state of mind.
That could be, because he's talking to his uncle about like their past and their family and whatnot. And did we see Uncle Al again?
I don't think we did, because until you mentioned it, I didn't know there was a character named Uncle Al.
Yeah, they had to talk, and then later, like, we never saw this character. We never saw him come in. He was never with the group, and then we never saw him later. We didn't see him killed, I don't think.
I assume that Uncle Al is just a figment of someone's imagination.
He must be.
Or maybe it's actually Dr. Sam Beckett, and it's a quantum leap situation where he's the only one that can see Al because he's a hologram.
That would have been cool.
It would have been much better than any of the twists in this movie.
Were there really twists? It was more just like, oh, that happened.
Well, I mean, it was supposed to be a twist, but maybe I was so bored I didn't care.
So we're already arguing about all this stuff, and then Jimmy's like, we need the best video ever. So he slams the door, and he says really dramatic, nobody leaves until Monday.
Not Monday, so they're stuck in this place for a whole weekend and try and crank out this cool video or whatever.
And I have to say, the song wasn't actually that bad, because right after that they go into, like, they actually already insert a music video into the movie. And the song was okay.
It was okay. It was, had a nice beat to it. It was, punk rock type of thing.
And it was a lot of smoke and a lot of close-ups of the face.
Some nice eyeliner or whatever.
That lead singer, Zach, he's got like these creepy bug eyes that like pop out of his face.
Yep.
It's very, very creepy looking. I wonder if he's going to be the bad guy later.
Oh, how dare you foreshadow something as epic as this.
Sorry, spoilers.
Spoilers.
So we have the music video, and they yell cut after a little while, and then they go and take a break. And then that girl who Angie doesn't like, I don't remember her name right off the top of my head right now.
Is it Kate? Katie?
No, Katie was the other girl that we meet later.
Oh yeah, this is the third one
Yeah, the third one that Angie has this beef with, she runs into Jimmy and says how she plays guitar too. And then they have a music montage of her playing guitar.
Yep.
And then Katie goes downstairs with another guy. I've got his name somewhere, but she goes downstairs to have sex with some dude, and it's like this.
Because this is a horror movie and that's what people do.
Well, at least they got that right. They showed us boobs and blood, you know.
Suppose.
So they got that. They go down and have sex in the basement, and maybe it's the sub basement. I don't know how far.
I don't know how many basements there are. Maybe this is some sort of like old like decommissioned military fallout shelter. So it just has basement after basement after basement.
Can we just pretend that's what it is?
I'm gonna say yes.
All right. So we've got what's her face playing the guitar and this mellow song and you know kind of
life is cool.
Yeah, and so she's playing and they're having sex downstairs, and then all of a sudden we get the killer right away.
Yeah, I mean this movie. I mean it felt like at least 45 minutes in, even though it's probably closer to like 20.
Yeah, because we had to.
This movie's only like what 80-some minutes long.
Oh yeah, it's not long at all. So I mean that's something it's got going for it.
It's short, so you know that's the one compliment I can give it.
And with the first kill, they were trying to do something. They had the bad guy come, and he's got like a sack face on, kind of like Jason in the second Friday the 13th movie. Only he's got 2 eye holes instead of just one.
So that's an improvement at least.
he wanted to see a little better. So he goes, you know. He starts like rubbing her shoulders or something, so then like he could take off the dress to get her naked because we have to see more boobs.
Whatever. I assume it was because he was also a masseuse in his day job when he's not killing people.
Yeah, I'll massage the death out of you. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe he's like a chiropractor, thought she needed a little adjustment before she dies, so.
I'm pretty sure it was just to get her naked so that we could get more boobs before she dies.
More plot contrivance because this is that kind of movie.
Because then he also needed her naked because where'd he end up stabbing her? While the two in the basement, they cut the scenes between the woman downstairs climaxing with the man and then him stabbing her in the vagina and groaning from that. So
listen, I can handle a lot, but then sometimes you're just like, no.
I wasn't sure about the whole stabbing. He liked orifices in this movie.
There are a lot of discrete openings and orifices in this film.
Well, so that's going on, and they're both having their. I don't know. I'm not even going to go anywhere with that.
So naturally, she ends up dead.
And they all come in because they're all joking around and having drugs because they're a punk rock band.
That's what you do when you're a punk rock band. You have 48 hours until the orphanage is going to be foreclosed on or something.
Yeah, and then they decide to go out and start doing the video again. And Nigel, the video man, he comes out and sees the dead body, and his first thought is, "Oh, this is so avant-garde. I gotta get this." Who sees a dead body and thinks that right away? Nigel does.
Nigel does, or I don't know.
So he goes and kicks her and stuff, and is like, "Hey."
Oh my gosh, she's actually dead.
You're awesome. You're awesome, but oh wait, you're dead. That's not cool. Well, but apparently it is fine though, because they decide if they don't get a great video before they leave this place, then their life is ruined. So they're just gonna leave the dead girl,
I guess,
and pretend it never happened, because the show must go on.
Exactly.
And this is where I had a note I noticed this earlier, and then I noticed throughout the whole thing, but this was the point where I finally was like, there are so many extreme close-up shots in this movie.
Yeah, it's almost as if they didn't have a really great location or something, so they had to do it more in close-ups, or it's just poor cinematography.
Or maybe they didn't have a wide-angle lens.
Maybe. I mean, you could still do a lot with just a regular zoom lens.
Because there was a lot of shots where it was like practically in their mouth or up their nose.
And not in a fun way.
No, I don't
Not in like a Fantastic Voyage sort of way where they go inside someone's body and then prevent them from...
This was just, hey, look up my nose while I'm talking to you.
And not like in a Lord of the Rings type of way, too, where they use a wide-angle lens on someone's face, but...
Yeah. So, yeah, close-ups aside, the show must go on because...
And don't forget they drape the woman's body in the flag. The British flag, the Union Jack, so God save the Queen, I guess.
No one saved that lady.
I guess.
They're all here. Someone's been murdered. There's no way in or out of this building. And the only person who thought that the murderer might still be there and could be one of them is Angie, Jimmy's girlfriend.
Yeah, so she's the smart one.
Yeah, she's the smart one. And everyone else just ignores her and says, no, we got to record, man. We got to record. It's too important.
Then they're worried there could be a public scandal, but then they're like, oh man, scandals are like the best thing that can ever happen to a band. It would drive up sales and stuff. Let's look at all that free PR.
Yeah, we'll just record elsewhere and pretend we haven't seen her yet, and then come in later and go, oh my God, there's a dead body. Does everybody have that story down?
Good. Okay, good. There we go.
All right. So Jimmy and I have a dude in suit because we didn't know his name was Carter until later in the movie.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I just got, there's the dude in the suit again.
Suit dude.
Suit dude. Carter the suit dude and Jimmy go exploring the building, and they all went back except Simon and Katie were still like downstairs snuggling in the bed.
Yeah,
and
that good old, like the post-coital cigarettes, I suppose.
And they're talking about, like she pulls out a tarot deck from I don't know where.
I assume she had it just like, I don't know, maybe it was
in her pocket.
I don't know.
Clothes at the side of the
Or
bed
whatever.
because, I mean,
who cares?
Who cares? Because that got him talking about how he left for a while and he was like living with a shaman and they ate cactus.
Oh, yeah. As you do. You go to Burning Man, I don't know.
I didn't know shamans just sat around eating cactus.
Well, it depends on the kind of shaman.
Yeah, so they're still down there. Then we go back to Simon. Which one was Simon?
Simon was the one with Katie, I think.
Okay, because he gets stabbed in the back of the head out of nowhere and through the mouth.
Oh, yeah.
And then, Simon is the one with Katie. Yeah, with Katie. And so they're, because he leaves the room and she's waiting for him to come back and she's all, oh, Simon, where are you going? And then
this
he comes
is after this dumb thing. I'll say at one point in my notes I have, oh my God, they're in the Matrix. Because maybe someone's wearing black leather, but I do not know. I do not remember any context for that note, but it's there. It's in my notes.
Maybe there was a black cat.
Or there was a CGI Squidward or something, I assume. Probably. So they do the
Squidbot.
Oh, and then can we talk about the stabbing effect, please?
Yes, let's. I don't know what program they're using for
I was going to say
effects.
After Effects. Or Final Cut Pro or something.
But was it even that good?
It looked like a student After Effects because it definitely was very poorly animated on. Just kind of definitely put it in post. It doesn't have any real sense of space to it. And also it does not composite very well whatsoever.
No, it like the blood coming out of the mouth looked like it was off of the mouth.
It was like in front of it.
Yeah, you could tell it was like in front of it, and it was very like it just looked like a blob of digital effect. And if you're gonna do that and you don't have the greatest effects, don't go with extreme close-ups.
Yeah, I mean, do everything you can to hide the effect. Even in something like a super effects-heavy movie like Batman v Superman or Justice League, what they did is they throw a lot of kind of smoke and sparks and other stuff around there.
Yeah.
Try and mask a lot of the compositing, even then it still has some issues. But at least then you have something to at least kind of distract you or mask some of the effect. So either A, use a lot more fake blood, or B, at least avoid close-ups on any sort of effects while you can.
Which they actually did later. It was this first one that was the worst because it was so close up, whereas the other ones there was one kill that was quick. And so it still looked not great, but like at least it was quick, and so you're not focusing on the bad effects. And then another one, which we'll get to later, one of the final kills was good, and it had like the sparks and stuff. So they got a little better, but this first one, it was like, well, you're pointing out right away with these kills that you're.
Also, really, I know if you have the budget, I would always maybe it's just me, but I always prefer using in-camera effects. Because even something with like a really low budget of like The Evil Dead, which had a super extremely low budget, they even had a lot of clever ways to get around it using their poor effects. And if they can do something like that in 1981 for next to nothing, you could probably do something similar.
Yeah, If you're gonna do low budget, yeah, I agree.
There was definitely an art form to someone like Tom Savini or all the other great effects geniuses.
Yeah, if you're gonna do a low budget horror, study the 80s like low budget horrors and figure out what they did on those low budgets and kind of emulate that and do fake blood. It's gonna look more real than that digital
even
stuff.
if it's just the good old Caro syrup fake blood.
Yeah,
it still has a presence, has a stickiness, and a nice consistency that looks good on camera.
Instead of the digital effects, if you don't have a real nice effects system or program, it's just not gonna work.
Exactly, and it's so much easier and probably less time consuming to make a bunch of fake blood or find some other way to work with it.
So anyway, off the bad effects of that one, he dies, stabbed through the head, and Katie runs and finds the dead girl from earlier, and then
oh no,
and then she runs out and finds the exit door, but there's bars there. Well, I suppose in her panic, maybe she forgot that there's no way out of here. But then the killer comes and it does they're getting all of the cliches in. He grabs a shovel from somewhere.
Also,
I don't know. Maybe
there's shovel come from?
Was there like a coal furnace in there?
I assume they borrowed it from like the local undertaker who also happened to be in the building.
Because he did the whole. She's like shaking the bars and he's walking behind her and doing the dragging the shovel thing where you hear the on the cement.
Yeah, or whatever it is.
And then close up on the shovel, which actually that's a close up you can do because it's just a close up of the shovel dragging on the cement. But why do they always announce themselves like that?
I assume it's because it's a movie, and in the end, it doesn't matter that much, and because it's a cool effect.
I suppose it's intimidating too.
Yeah.
So she gets hit in the head with a shovel.
Yep.
And then we go back to Jimmy and the suit guy.
Yep, good old suit guy.
And they're still exploring, and the rest of the group is still partying, and they're getting a little uneasy because they don't know where people are. And then one guy goes to the shitter, and
and he gets eaten by a dinosaur.
He does. Who does number 2 work for? We get a close up of his face while he's grunting, trying to get one out.
That's what happens when you poop, I suppose.
And and this is another one where I noticed the effects because it was another close up of him getting a pool cue through the head.
Oh yeah.
Which at least that one we know where the pool. They established the pool cue.
There's a pool table in this building.
Because if you're gonna be there for a whole weekend, you might as well, if a studio recording place, you might as well have a pool table if you got some downtime.
Take some time off,
Yeah. So that at
least there's that.
And it kind of escalated here because then the killer he stabs the guy in the head. This after hitting Katie. Stabbed the guy through the back of the head, kicks Katie with a shovel, goes and stabs the guy with a pool cue through the toilet stall, and then he goes and here's where we get another orifice, because the guy's climbing up a ladder.
Of course.
And he just shoves it up his ass.
Oh, yeah.
Sword up the ass. Oh,
that's great. No, also the pool cue scene just made me write in my notes, I miss Shaun of the Dead. A much better scene involving a pool cue.
Oh, and so, yeah, we're escalating here, but then also we're escalating with other things because Suit Guy finds one of the girls and they decide to get it on in the bathroom because we need more sex because it's a low-budget horror.
Nothing makes you horny like a killer, right?
And, of course,
killer going around.
He's doing her from behind, so then when he's dying, she doesn't know. So that's another cliche of, what are you doing?
Even though there's probably blood going all over her back and other things.
Because
he feel that.
He got his throat slit. And there was no blood spraying. Nothing. It just kind of dribbled out.
It's very clean.
very clean throat slit.
Maybe he was already dead, I suppose. Because normally, that's one of your major arteries, right? That's the jugular.
Yeah.
So,
carpe jugulum.
So you think there's a lot of blood, because that goes, never mind. Why am I debating how much blood should be in this movie?
We don't know. And I thought at this point that the girl died too. It was assumed.
That's true.
Because they show up a close-up of her eye, and then he's got the sword. So, and then they cut away.
Yep.
So I think they were trying to fake us out there. Because then we go back to Jimmy and Angie looking for the keys to the place. Why don't you have them on you?
Yeah, you think they would have get here are the keys. I'm going to put them in a nice public place. So when you guys need to leave for whatever reason and come back, the keys are right here.
Yeah, so they didn't, and so they assumed the other guys took them. So they're searching the whole building for a set of keys.
Everyone needs your keys, right?
Yes. I don't know how they're gonna. It's like a needle in a haystack, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they've got the only keys to the front door, and they didn't leave them on their person.
You'd think that he'd keep them with him either at all times or just something.
So they go out looking for the keys, and then he goes into this room and he finds Zach and one other guy gutted on the pool table.
Yep. Oh no.
And
Not that.
And then another guy falls out of a door, which I'm assuming was like a storage room or a meat locker or something, because it was a post office. Maybe there's a meat locker.
Meat locker in the post office.
And then a dead guy falls on top of him and like spills blood in his mouth and everything, so that we can have him all bloody the rest of the time and
the rest of the movie.
And one of the guys in the storage was alive, and it was for only one purpose, so that we could get the cool decapitation scene.
Of course.
He falls out too, and he's like, because his mouth is gagged.
Mm-hmm.
And then a speaker falls on his head.
Oh yeah.
On his head. And
on his head.
Splat. So I think that was
and now it's time for the big moment, the big twist. You guys ready for this? Spoilers. So after Jimmy leaves, then Zach moves like the dead guts off of his, and then he gets up and stands up, and it turns out, oh no, Zach was the killer the whole time. And we go to this big flashback sequence. Imagine like the ending of The Usual Suspects with like the weird coffee cup thing where he's slowly trying to figure out, because of course this isn't black and white. Everything finally makes sense. All the disparate parts come together, except instead of being a really interesting reveal to an okay movie, instead it's just a bad reveal to a bad movie that makes you think of other movies that you should be watching instead.
Zach was still alive
the whole time.
He was not good. He just borrowed guts to put on his
borrowed guts.
He was living on borrowed guts.
Yes.
And he was the killer the whole time. Why? Because he was jilted by a girl.
And he's into satanic stuff now.
Yeah, because I mean, when a girl dumps you, you go straight to Satan.
Yep.
So Katie, who he hit earlier with a shovel,
I assumed he killed her, but turns out she was still alive, and now
because she's the ex-girlfriend.
Now she's tied up, and I just wrote with satanic stuff and all this. Then I just wrote when I found out the whole thing about Zach being the killer. Crappy twist.
Crappy twist. Yes. And so, this is where he gets his big monologue.
He does get this big monologue
about how Katie sucks because she broke up with him.
I just gotta do this, and then he says, "I'm gonna make Charlie Manson look like a Sunday school teacher."
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
that is a line. So now we've got he's monologuing, so Katie somehow escapes, even though she's chained to like the ceiling or something.
Well, yeah, because once the Bond villain starts monologuing and gives away his whole plan,
then you escape.
Then yes, and no, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. And then Oddjob throws his hat at him or something.
Yeah. Well, then, sure. Was Oddjob? No, he was in every movie.
True, everyone knows Oddjob, who is historically was only in Goldfinger, has appeared in every Bond film as much as James Bond.
Yes, that would make every James Bond movie better.
Also, so then okay, so it turns out he's been doing this all because he sold his soul to Satan for rock and roll or whatever. Also, if you're going to use the line sold his soul for rock and roll, at least do something. I mean, you can't take away from something. Tell you what about Phantom of the Paradise, but if anything, that movie has a great tagline. Don't steal the tagline from Phantom of the Paradise.
That movie's something else. Maybe someday we'll talk about it.
Maybe.
I don't know. Is it on a streaming service and will
Probably.
It randomly come up?
Maybe, but I haven't seen it, so that could be something.
Oh, I have. It's a treat. So now we're just going to whoever's left here. Jimmy and Angie, they split up because why wouldn't you?
Katie escaped, so she's still out there.
And Nigel's wandering around with his camera.
Because Nigel, I suppose, because he's got a camera. He's a filmmaker, dang it.
Yeah, and he's the one who runs into Zach and then finds out that he's the killer, and so they have a sword/guitar fight.
Yep, so now it's a rock star versus filmmaker fight.
And actually the rock star has the sword and the filmmaker has the neck of a guitar.
Because, whatever.
And Jimmy walks in and doesn't know who to believe, so it's one of those, no, it's him.
Believe
He's
me,
the killer.
I'm the crazy one. I can tell you, I'm the real whatever.
They have every cliche in this movie.
I assume they just went to like a checklist. It's like, okay, got that.
Well, but at least they had the whole Nigel was videotaping, so instead of having this thing drag on
then
and
Nigel
on, he's like,
wait a minute, just watch the video. He says it all right there. It's like, oh, he did watch the video. And then possibly the best kill in the entire film is that Zach kills Nigel with a cymbal.
Throws it across the room.
So he is Oddjob. I was right about it earlier.
Yes, indeed. Oddjob throws the cymbal across the room and cuts his head clean off.
It's very clear. I didn't think cymbals were that sharp.
Apparently they are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't want a flat one.
Boo! Boo!
Sorry. I apologize for that.
You should. Anyway.
So Zach runs away after decapitating, and that leaves Jimmy, and he runs off.
Jimmy, Katie, and Angie, I believe, are the last people.
Yeah, and Zach goes off to find Katie again. Jimmy finds Jimmy finds Zach's table of Satan shit.
Oh yeah.
It's
just like, left it lying around.
What the hell is this? And then Jimmy gets a jump on Zach, and Zach runs away from him and Katie.
Mm-hmm.
And then Angie comes back and finds Nigel's head and the camera.
Of course.
And then this is where the one girl who we thought was dead, another girl that we thought was dead besides Katie, she comes back and she didn't have her eye stabbed out because she was missing an eye now.
But hey, she's okay.
She's all right. Just missing an eye. That's all right.
As you do.
That's better than getting stabbed in the vagina.
That seemed a little uncalled for. Maybe I don't know, maybe it's a reference to a Lucio Fulci movie, the New York Ripper. Yeah. It could be, but I'm not sure this film is going that deep. But if it does, I could be wrong.
I don't know. I thought that went pretty deep.
Shut up. This is not worth it. I'll quit this podcast right now. I appreciate a good pun, but not for this movie. Not for Deadtime. This is not worth it.
Is it wasted?
It is definitely wasted.
Oh, okay. I'll be done with them. So what do we got? We got Jimmy and Zach are fighting again, and or for the first time, I don't know. And Katie comes and stabs. She found like a butcher knife or something in the kitchen.
Yeah, and she stabs
Zach. Because it's a post office.
Because it's a post office / recording studio / whatever we want it to be, warehouse issue thing.
And it's Katie, the ex, and she stabs Zach, and then Zach. I have written down that Zach turns around and stabs her, and then he's sad.
Yep.
Because he killed his ex.
What a bummer.
And then Zach and Katie die. Oh, wait.
No, there's more fighting because, of course.
What, you think they both died? Remember, this was another fake out?
Another fake out. Listen.
Zach has 2 fake outs.
You really shouldn't be doing these, I'm dead, not dead fake outs. For a good reason. Mostly because if it's made fun of in the movie Scream, which came out in '96, where the best part of that movie is where the killer in Scream, I forget who it was, he's down, I was like, then he's like, this is the part of the movie where the bad guy gets up one last time. He gets up and then he just gets shot in the head 3 times and says, not in my movie, and that's how it ends. I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of like how you can't really do that serious of a police movie anymore in a certain style because Hot Fuzz exists.
Yeah. I mean, but if it's done really well, that's the thing. You have to do it really well, though. And
this movie doesn't do much of anything well.
No, it doesn't. So we have another fake out because he's sad and he dies, quote unquote, and that just leaves Jimmy, Angie, and One Eye. Mm-hmm. That's all that's left. But wait, I have written down. Wait. Zach is still alive.
He's still alive. Wow.
He's just laying down next to dead Katie.
Yep. And
then he gets up and goes after the other. He's like Michael Myers. He just doesn't die. Stabbed and he's just gonna rise slowly.
Load up. Yeah. Except that movie was good. That movie was so good.
Watch every movie we've talked about other than this one.
Yes.
Jimmy and Zach fight again.
Unless you're a glutton for punishment, then you can watch this one.
Jimmy and Zach fight again, and this one was another cool kill, though, at least. It could have been cooler if the effects were better.
Yeah.
Because he's... First of all, actually, it doesn't make sense, even though it's kind of cool, because He falls on a broken guitar. He falls on the neck of a guitar.
Of an electric guitar.
Okay, and so Jimmy goes over to the amplifier. This is where it doesn't make sense.
And plugs it in.
And I'll get to what he says in a second, but he plugs it in to kill him.
Yes, so then Zach is being electrocuted.
But however, he's stabbed by the neck of the guitar that's broken off of the rest of the guitar. So there should be like nothing.
Where's the current coming from?
Yeah, where did the current come from? But it blows his head off. But right before he plugs it in, we get the title of the movie.
You know what time it is? It's Deadtime.
That was great, right?
I guess.
Right.
I'm all for a one-liner. I really enjoy one-liners, but once again, that one-liner should have been in a better movie. It might have been okay.
At least we got like the title of the movie. We've had one or two movies where we don't understand the title of the movie.
Yeah, I suppose. But
actually, I don't really understand the title of this one. It's Deadtime.
Also, Deadtime is all one word in this.
It feels like it's playing off of bedtime, but like that's the only reason I would think of like using that title. But there's nothing about
maybe it's a music thing that I just don't understand. But also, if a movie like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter has a better one-liner than you, and the name of that movie is Abraham Lincoln Vampire, where at the end of the film, Abraham Lincoln stabs a vampire by punching him with a silver pocket watch saying, "Time waits for no man." And that is a lot better than this movie. I'm just saying, you can do better.
You could have definitely done better on the one-liner. The writing...
Watch Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. It's more fun than it has any right to be.
I did look up, and the writer of this movie, this is like, his one movie writing credit. So, And the director, it was like his only... Oh, no, he had a few other things just a couple other movies I've never heard of. So they're probably about of this quality.
Okay.
But good on him for making some movies. But anyway, it's Deadtime, so Zach's head explodes. So we have another... That's like 3 heads that get chopped off or explode.
It's all about the heads.
It is. Heads and orifices.
Yes.
And that leaves Jimmy, Angie, and One Eye again.
Yep. They're the last people alive, so they finally get the keys. And now they're going out after they survived a horrible night, and they put the key in the padlock. And then guess what happens? One more twist.
This is so stupid.
One more Shyamalan-esque moment.
The key breaks in the lock. And they're like shocked, like, oh my God, we're never going to get out of here. The bad guy's dead. And there's still like a door to get out. You could put a rug over the razor wire to get over it.
There's a lot you can do.
I'm not sure, like, everyone, when the first girl died, they're all like, well, the show must go on. And now that everyone's dead and that's just the 3 of them left, they're like in absolute horror that the key has broken.
Yeah. Because it's not like, the key is still in the lock. I'm sure you could probably finagle it in a way with, like, paperclip or something to make it, because it's just a padlock.
Yeah. I don't, there's a shovel to break the padlock.
I don't know. There's a lot they can do.
They've got like, a kitchen and a coal furnace because it was a post office.
M. Night Shyamalan doesn't think that last twist was worth it.
So, this movie, before we get into, like, rating this movie or whatever it is we do, I went on and looked at Rotten Tomato. Critics score, not applicable. I don't think any critic has reviewed this movie.
At least they haven't admitted to it.
The audience score is 13%. So if that gives you any indication. Now, here's the thing. I wanted to try something a little different because we're doing this podcast where we watch random movies just to show people what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff that they might not have seen, although we did Matrix Revolutions because it randomly came up.
I had never seen that one. So
you had never seen it. So in some of these we really trash on, especially like this movie. And I want to like end with like not a rating, because ratings could be like 9 out of 10 or 1 out of 10 or whatever.
Ultimately, they're kind of meaningless.
Yeah, and also that's still going more negative. I want to try and go more positive and go, okay, even if this is a good movie or a bad movie, who should watch this and why? And maybe that'll be a challenge.
I think this movie could be used for film students because it shows you how not to make a movie, or they should at least have to analyze it to a point where they see where a lot of its mistakes come from. Because the biggest takeaway that I think is that they have this location, which seems to be ever changing. But I think what they needed to do, especially at least maybe in the script, maybe in some from the cinematography, maybe from the editing even, they needed to establish a sense of space so that the audience kind of knows where everything is, so then we can kind of follow along with where the characters are and what's going on in this location. Because if this is your only location, you got to use it and you got to establish it and everything this location can do. The best film that I think that is close to this that ever does that, at least to me, is the movie Don't Breathe. It came out like a couple years ago,
and that was one of my favorite movies that year.
But one of the best parts of Don't Breathe is this one shot. It's only a single shot where it's about basically the Don't Breathe is about these 3 kids who go in to try and steal from a blind man so that they can get enough money to leave or whatever. But anyway. It's a good horror movie. You should watch it. It's better than this movie. I highly recommend.
It is very thrilling and very tense.
I highly recommend Don't Breathe. So it's got this it's an old blind man played by Stephen Lang, who's a great character actor.
Yes.
Who's like jacked in this movie, but he's like ex-military or something. So they have to steal money from this old blind man who supposedly he's got a lot of money hidden somewhere. So one of the things this film does really well, this is a single shot where it just kind of goes through almost this entire 2-story house, except for the basement. It goes through, it's kind of this long, almost kind of lazy shot where it's almost like the camera itself is another character who's just kind of walking through the house. And what it does this slowly enough where it establishes all the important locations that you're going to see throughout the movie. It does this very early on, so that way for the rest of the film, you can have an approximation or even a map of what the house is like, so you know at any time where they cut to one character, oh, he's in the kitchen. They cut to another character, oh, she's in the bedroom. He's in the closet. So you know almost exactly where everyone is throughout this entire film.
That's a good point. And I never even really thought about that because the movie's so well made that like I wasn't even thinking about that at the time. But thinking back watching the movie, it is when you see a character in a room, they could cut to anywhere else in the house, and you really do know exactly where they're at. This one, you cut to the 2 having sex in the basement.
You don't know where they are.
No idea. They could be 3 floors below everyone. You have no idea.
Even with a movie like the original Friday the 13th, the movie takes its time to establish Camp Crystal Lake. So you don't, not necessarily exactly, but you have an approximation of where everyone is in Camp Crystal Lake.
Where the cabins are, where the cabins are,
where the lake is, where the weird work shed is. So just...
Yeah.
Where the weird guy that goes, oh, this camp is cursed.
Yeah. The guy who shows up in like the first 3 movies.
Yeah, wasn't there like one point in one of the movies where he shows up in one of the closets? But that's anyway.
Yeah. But no, that's a good point. I had the same thought, and it almost seems like a backhanded compliment saying, you should watch this movie because it was made. And the fact that it was made poorly actually is a good lesson because there's another lesson you can get from it. For all you film students out there, is try and just do what you want to do and get it done. Because if you look at this movie, it's a bad movie, but I want to give them 100% props for actually getting this in the theater. It's a low budget movie. You can tell they must have just been friends or something that did this. And I don't know if a studio helped them or not, or if this was just totally independent, but it seemed like it was more just guys doing this. I could be way off base, but the fact that this movie made it onto 18 screens in the U.S., and this is a British movie. So, I mean, the fact that it can get made, that's also another thing is, yeah, learn from the mistakes of this movie, but also learn that just go out and do it, even if you're not the greatest filmer, if you're not Spielberg.
In the words of Jake the dog, sometimes being bad at something is the first step to being halfway good at something.
Exactly. If you don't, you got to start somewhere. So, good on them. So anyway, not a good movie, but you can learn from it.
You can learn from it. Watch Don't Breathe. It's a much better movie. If you have seen Don't Breathe, watch it again.
Exactly. So that's it for, that's not it for today.
That's true. We got to do our nice final little spin here.
And we're going to spin for animation.
This one, I don't know. I just wanted something maybe a bit more colorful. And animation is normally a bit more colorful. So here we go. Spin the wheel.
And
make whatever sound effect you have in your head. Thank you. That's exactly what it sounds like.
we've got a different wheel every week.
It's so many wheels in this house,
We get
in the studio, and wherever we are.
an unknown location.
In the studio. It's the studio.
Yeah,
It's definitely not Kyle's basement. It's the studio.
We're wealthy, independent people that have our own studio. That's why this is such a great podcast.
Anyway, so the film we have is called April and the Extraordinary World, or Extraordinary. I don't know.
Depending on where you live and who you are.
And what you are.
France, asleep in the 19th century, governed by steam and Napoleon VI, where scientists vanish mysteriously. A girl, Avril, so it must be like a foreign film, and that was the original name, goes in search of her missing scientist parents. Well, that sounds interesting. So
yeah, I hope it's good. It's got 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, so
all right, so
that's that. We'll see you next time, and as always, I'm Noah Saturn, and
I'm Kyle Mulford. I can't even say my last name, so it must be time to go. And until next time, it's dead time.
It's dead time.